Good Thursday afternoon. We are starting to track some big changes. First and foremost, most notably so, we're starting to see a very big drop in temperatures. 41 degrees right now, a 32-degree departure from where we were yesterday. I'm KHOU meteorologist Kim Castro, and I will be with you throughout the day, not only tracking the temperature drop and the uptick in wind speeds, but of course the potential for the wintry mix we've been talking about all week long. It is now winding down to the few hours where we could see that potential happening there. Dew points in the low 30s, so that air is nice and dry. All right, what's in store for the rest of the evening? We are going to see temperatures stay in the upper 30s, very low 40s, overnight dropping into the upper 30s, mid 30s too. Wind gusts getting up to 30 miles an hour. So the big headlines for you on this Thursday, it's going to be chilly, it's going to be breezy. With those two factored in, it's going to be much cooler than it actually is outside. It's going to feel like we're in the 20s. All right, let's look at future track for the potential of that wintry mix. We're looking at the best chance to see that start to develop right around 8:30. You see the pinks there pushing into our western counties, Washington, Austin, getting into Waller and Grimes, and even portions of northern Montgomery counties and even into Walker too. All right, so that's 8:30, but you'll notice surface temperatures are well above the freezing mark, so really wouldn't support any sort of snow with this type of setup. The lower level is just too warm. It's what we call the melting layer. Once that snowflake departs from the cloud and encounters that very warm layer, it really starts to melt. So we'll get into what type of wintry precip we're expecting to see, if any, in just a little bit. But I want to show you hour by hour what we're expecting to see. So that's 8:30 this evening. As we fast forward through time, getting into the overnight hours, that's 12:30. We see that wintry precip start to push a little bit south. So right along the I-10 corridor is where we're expecting, if we do see that wintry precip, to show up there. So again, starting to favor the western counties. So western and pushing south now, still in Waller, still in parts of Montgomery, and even starting to break into northern Harris County there in Tomball, potentially in Conroe, maybe just south of Brenham there. We could see a little bit of that mix coming in with that moisture. So the tricky part of this forecast here is that temperatures are going to continue to drop overnight, getting closer and closer to that freezing mark. But will it line up with the moisture? We need those two to coincide in order to see that wintry precip there. If the moisture rather comes in a little bit too early while those temperatures are too warm, well then we would see that melt before reaching the ground and really strictly get rain. Now if we see that moisture stick around a little bit longer as those temperatures continue to drop, well, that's the better likelihood of us seeing the wintry mix. But as you can tell, by early tomorrow morning, 9:30 there, that moisture has gone well offshore. This is the latest run of the GFS, the American model. Now, I also want to show you the European model because this doesn't show that wintry precip at all because that moisture shows up as moving on too quickly. All right, so let's fast forward through time here. Same marker right around 8:30, 9 o'clock. You can see the shower activity really pushing towards the south into the southeast. Those temperatures well above the freezing mark there in the upper 30s, low 40s. This model not showing any moisture actually, and certainly not any winter precip here. All right, let's fast forward through time, again keeping that moisture a little bit too far to the south, keeping those temperatures in the mid 30s, not really supporting wintry precip conditions, not to mention that the moisture is not lining up there. So that's the European model. Both models we really look for good guidance on what we can expect to see. The American model showing a good potential for that wintry precip mainly during the overnight hours, but again, European model hinting at the potential of that dwindling down. All right, now let's talk about what kind of wintry precip we can expect to see. All right, if all levels of the atmosphere from 34,000 feet down to the surface remained below that freezing mark, then we would see snow. But as we've been seeing in a lot of our models, 850 millibars, about 5,000 feet off the ground, showing conditions that are just too warm to support that behavior. So if we do see any of that wintry mix, it would most likely come in the form of, I'm thinking, some sleet, maybe a wet snow, and perhaps the freezing rain potential, I think, is not going to be all the way there, and that's just because those temperatures at the surface are just too warm. The way we would see freezing rain is if we had the melting layer, so temperatures above the freezing mark, and then a sharp drop in temperatures as we get close to the surface, then that snowflake that melted here would refreeze once it hits the surface. But because those temperatures are just a little bit too warm down at the surface, I'm thinking the more likely type of winter precip we would see is a little bit of sleet, perhaps a little bit of some wet snow. And the reason for the wet snow, although again, temperatures are well above the freezing mark, is because sometimes when that rainfall comes down as quickly as it is, it can drag in some of those snowflakes from above the surface very quickly down into the ground, and that gives us the potential to see that. But again, it would be very quick, very brief, not sticking to the ground, not causing concern for any travel impacts as of right now. A current look at radar, there are some travel concerns for neighbors to the deep south there in Texas. Corpus Christi, Victoria even starting to see a winter weather advisory and a winter storm warning. So the area in pink there, that's the winter storm warning. So that's a little bit more imminent and a little bit more threatening. And the reason for that is because they are expecting to see a little bit of that wintry mix stick to the ground, less than an inch, but lasting through noon on Friday, which means travel impacts could be a concern there. The areas in purple here, those are winter weather advisories. This lasts until early on Friday, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm showing you this just in case you have friends or family members that live in these areas. You're going to want to tell them to definitely watch out tomorrow morning. Slick roads and a bit of a troublesome commute, which is why those warnings are in place there. So again, the areas in purple, including Austin and Del Rio, that lasts until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The areas in pink here with the winter storm warning, that lasts until the noon hour. So for the potential of that wintry precip to stick, the advisory areas, the areas in purple, only expecting a few hundredths of an inch of that wintry precip, so not enough to cause concern. All right, now we get into our area, and we are in that wind advisory. So we don't have any wintry precip type warnings. We're just a little bit too far to the east of where the temperatures and the moisture line up. The scenario really coincides for that to be a problem. But we're dealing with a wind advisory with gusts getting up to 35 miles an hour, mainly along the immediate coastline. Now, as we push further inland, still going to be breezy for today. That's a snapshot at the noon hour, so in just a little bit, we're going to see wind gusts getting up to around 25 miles an hour, 31 miles an hour in Galveston, 30 at Crystal Beach. As we fast forward through time, 6 o'clock this evening, holding steady. That wind continues to gust right around 25 miles an hour. Closer to the coast, gusts will get up to 35 miles an hour. And that starts to die down by tomorrow afternoon. Means waking up tomorrow, it's going to be a really chilly day because wind is still a factor. A little bit more scaled back than what we'll experience this afternoon, but certainly gusty at times. 25 miles an hour at Galveston, Bush at 20 miles an hour, Brenham close to that, College Station, wind gusts at 21 miles an hour. All right, let's take us into tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow evening. Wind gusts now in the teens, and then they'll drop into the single digits, and that's when we'll start to feel certainly a little bit more comfortable, although we still have some very chilly mornings ahead, and that's going to be the big focal point as we move forward into the weekend. It's going to be very cool to start, and those temperatures are going to stay very winter-like, below average for this time of year, at least for the next few days. All right, 20 hours from now, this is how those temperatures are going to drop. So for the majority of the afternoon, it's going to stay pretty dreary out there. Lots of cloud cover, drizzle hanging around. It's a bit of a soupy day. Lots of socked in cloud cover for us. So we're going to see those temperatures hold in the low 40s for the most part as we head into the evening hours, dropping into the upper 30s and then eventually into the mid 30s waking up Friday morning. All right, let's just pick a time here. How about 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning? 38 degrees actual temperature. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning feels like temperatures 28 degrees. So a good rule of thumb is when we have these wind speeds at around 20 to 25 miles an hour, you can basically shave off 10 degrees from actual temperatures for feels like temperatures. So if you check your phone tomorrow waking up and you're trying to plan how to dress and what sort of accessories to pack with you in terms of gloves, in terms of scarves, in terms of beanies, those sort of things, just make sure you take into account the wind. So if you're waking up, you're checking our KHOU weather app, and you see that the current temperature is at 38 degrees, shave off 10 degrees. It really feels like 28 degrees out there. So just make sure that you are dressing accordingly. Make sure you got your extremities covered and you can be a little bit more comfortable with this uncomfortably cool weather we're going to be experiencing. So another recap, 7:30 Friday morning, the best chance to see that wintry precip is going to come in overnight. So I'm thinking right around midnight to the very early portions of our Friday, potentially all the way up until 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, we could see the potential for just a little bit of that wet snow coming down with the little bit of rain we have left over. Again, a lot of that is going to move offshore very quickly, but chilly start to the day, 33 degrees. You'll notice most spots pretty much above the freezing mark. There, Brenham getting slightly below that. College Station waking up at 29 degrees tomorrow. Huntsville 30 degrees. Livingston 31. But you'll notice the moisture has quickly moved on from those areas. Okay, and then as we get into Saturday morning, that's when temperatures really start to cool off. We'll see all that cool air behind the front settling in. So temperatures will be below the freezing mark, but we don't have any moisture, so we don't have any concern for the wintry precip. We just have the concern for a light freeze. So temperatures now pretty much area-wide below the freezing mark. 29 degrees is where you're going to be waking up Saturday morning at Bush. 29 in Tomball, Sugar Land, same deal for you. Columbus 29 too. And then a little bit chillier, Cleveland, Huntsville, College Station, Brenham 28 degrees is where you'll be waking up. And then some low 30s for the coastline too, Galveston just above that freezing mark. So we will have to watch for our people, pets, and our plants come early Saturday morning because we do have a light freeze concern there. We've got the potential for that rain wintry mix that comes in overnight tonight into our early Friday. And then we really start to see that dry up by the early morning hours. I'm thinking 8 o'clock in the morning, you won't have to worry about that at all. Those temperatures are going to stay cool, but the wet weather is really out of the way, so we won't have those two coming together to give us that potential. Notice the temperatures stay in the 50s and barely just climbing into the upper 50s as we head into Monday. That's when we're scheduling your next front, so we are going to bring back those rain chances, and temperatures stay nice and cool for the remainder of that 7-day forecast, with the SPC outlook for widespread temperatures staying below average. So it is going to be cool. You are going to need those winter jackets, those coats, a little bit on the thicker side, I would say, because not only do we have cool afternoons, but very chilly starts to the day. We're going to continue to monitor these model runs as the day goes on to see if we're going to see any shifts in the wintry mix potential. We'll be updating you live here on KHOU 11 on the air at noon with team coverage. I will be on with Cheetah Craft, and then all evening long we will have triple team coverage with Tim Pandages, our chief meteorologist David Paul, and I will be out on the weather tracker making sure I monitor conditions for you out on the road, so make sure you stick with us.